In order to understand how to create a new axiom of reality, you must understand that you're operating out of three primary realities: soul, mind, and body, in that order: soul, mind, and body. There are four quadrants to each sub-reality, and I did make a drawing. So since the soul is source, we'll actually not call it a sub-reality, but these two sub-realities each have four quadrants inside of each sub-reality: inner individual, inner collective, outer individual, and outer collective perspective of the world. So I'm thinking to myself, I say, hey, I noticed this axiom in the middle of the four quadrants. The first question my mind asks is, what's the common point of intersection for each quadrant of each sub-reality? The main point of intersection is always your egoic perception. I need you to understand that. Your awareness is always the main point in intersection in between each quadrant, each sub-reality. Now, another thing that you must understand is what is actually running and controlling these realities. What is actually running these sub-realities? And I've realized that not only is there one constant in each sub-reality, reality, a dream, experience, any quasi-realm that you visit, but it is also the sense of good and evil, aka the use or misuse of your life force energy, how you are, how life force energy awareness is being manipulated. In order to understand that, you must understand that your egoic perception is always based on polarities, direct opposites, direct magnetism causing the spin. You are creating your reality based off of what you determine as real and unreal on the top of each of the vertical axioms. Now, you'll notice we have room for two more polarities. Since the presence of good and evil are always there in our experience, we are always aware of it. Even in the physical realm, we seem to be hyper aware of good and evil. We seem to have a super sense of good and evil because it is our core nature, the use or misuse of our life force energy, aka how we are manipulating it. So that brings about something interesting. At the top of the polarity in each sub-reality is what's real and what's unreal, and good and evil. The common main point of intersection is always your egoic perception of each outer individual perspective, of each inner individual perspective that you have in the mind and in the body, the physical realm, of each inner collective, of each outer collective perspective that you have. But I took it a step farther, and I realized that these axioms are actually in each quadrant of each sub-reality. And so I'll give you a more modified drawing, and this is what I came up with, and it's very interesting. Now, you see here, we have mind, body, soul. These are the only two realities we can actually create or manipulate. These two realities are emergence from source. Look what happens when I put the axiom right in the middle of each four quadrants. For instance, this one, inner individual, you'll have what's real and what's not real, and you'll have a perception of good and evil in between this quadrant of this reality. About your inner individual perspective about yourself. You'll have the same here with the outer collective, and the same here in these two other quadrants. So the four quadrants of the reality are a constant. What's linking these four realities together and causing them to spin and causing reality to be created in your mind is you. Is your egoic perception. So I'm actually calling this the 35 dots of reality. If you are able to determine what's real and unreal in each quadrant, and you are able to control or manipulate your perception of good and evil in each quadrant, then you actually have created a new axiom of reality, and you have full control of your reality. So this is a template, a simple template of how you could literally create your own reality. It really forms a pattern of synchronic causality instead of linear causality, which is more like a domino effect. It causes synchronic causality. These worlds are spinning. Things are changing. Things are always changing based off of what's real, what's unreal, what's good and evil. Your perception of it's always changing. The only things that don't change is your sense of good and evil, your sense of what's real and unreal, and your egoic perception, aka your awareness. So, I spoke on the Buddha earlier. So while I agree with the synchronic causality within the Buddhist message, I don't agree with the fact that ignorance is the first link to all suffering. I know that to a certain extent, excess suffering has been caused without even the fact of ignorance coming into play. So you don't necessarily have to be ignorant in order for suffering to happen. The Buddhist also makes a great point. It said the Buddha had back problems also. One of his peers questioned that since he did still endure suffering, that he had not overcome all suffering. And the Buddha replied, although no one will escape suffering in this realm, you can escape excess suffering. So he said, I will take the first dart, but not the second. So I will take the pain on one physical level, but I will not double down on it mentally and let it hit me and affect me twice. So therefore pain arises, suffering arises, and suffering passes. So it is actually not the end to all suffering, but it is the end of excess suffering. And that's what this new template of creating new axioms of reality would present. That you are actually in control of what is real and what is not real. Life is actually meaningless. Why am I forced to do this? Like, why were we burdened with this responsibility? The fact that life is meaningless is the only space that you have to create your meaning and to create your own new axiom of reality. Again, if you do not find a purpose or create your own reality, then one will be given to you. That's another extent of topic, is purpose. Our purpose is actually to create our own reality, to create our purpose. Let's say that people actually started doing it. Each one would be unique. It would be like a snowflake. And I believe that creating your own axiom of reality could indeed be the end to not only multidimensional slavery that causes excess suffering, but excess suffering caused within your inner reality as well. Now, the 4 quadrants of reality: inner individual, inner collective, outer collective. The song or the music that lights the soul up, is touching on each quadrant of reality. It's touching on inner individual. It's touching on inner collective. It's touching on outer individual. It's touching on outer collective. So it is literally speaking to the soul because it's maximizing and accessing all four quadrants of each reality at once. And to the human mind, it's like magic. Because at our core nature, we are born to create. Like, you are actually responsible for creating your own reality, for determining what's real and what is unreal, and controlling, manipulating your perception of good and evil, all polarities in your reality. I don't know if it's because of brainwashing or because of just being traumatized, but it almost seems like the responsibility is always just pushed off. And that's gonna bring me to my next explanation. Since humanity has proven to be incapable of creating new axioms of collective reality, that leaves the room for power to be transferred into 0.5% of low vibrational conscious beings on this earth. So it must be up to the 1% of high vibrational conscious beings in the earth to sway the collective and become leaders. See, you can't be a weak person and create your own reality. Like, you must have full control over your egoic perception. You must. You must become the watcher of your egoic perception in order to see what it's doing, in order to study it years upon years, in order to tame your egoic perception. And you can't be a weak person and create your own reality. Like, you literally have to be strong in the mind to stand firm on what's real and what's not real. Stand firm as a collective on what you accept as real and what you do not accept as real, because we've been accepting things that torture human consciousness. We've been accepting things that lead us into loops of endless genealogy within each quadrant of each realm. You see, you must understand that you can be, this is a synchronic causality. And you can actually be trapped in deeply into one realm. All of these are quasi-realms. All of these are similar realms with different laws. Laws based off of what is real and what is unreal. See, it is very possible for someone to, for instance, get completely trapped in their own inner individual quasi-realm. Any of these quadrants can turn into hell if you do not have dominion over what you perceive as good and evil and what you perceive as real and unreal. It kind of looks like a snowflake. This is just one human. If we were to add another one down and another one down here, as a collective, we would look like a snowflake of consciousness. But I'll tell you one thing, it's something that I'm super and hyper aware of: reductionism. Like, I will never be a reductionist. I will never reduce the beautiful complexities of reality. The only time I would do it is to invite in understanding, to invite in more knowledge, invite in more gnosis. This is your quasi-mechanism, being able to simplify complexity. Go from complexity and move over to the bandwidth of high vibrational simplicity. I want you to understand that although we may have one axiom of reality where the realest thing is art, and we may have one axiom of reality where the realest thing in this world is knowledge and gnosis, all of these, no matter how unique they are in their own way, may look like the same pattern if we zoom out. So I'm sure you've never met a person who has offered you to create a new axiom of your reality. And I wonder why. Is it because that I believe that less than 0.5% of human beings are actually conscious on a high vibrational frequency. They actually really want to know how to manipulate this reality in order to get a better experience here. Because you'll find so much knowledge in the world, and very intelligent people dancing around knowledge, drawing you into their own quasi realms of darkness and endless genealogy. See, this is what endless genealogy is getting trapped into one of these quasi realms. See, this is why you shouldn't seek permanence in either realm. And to seek permanence in either realm is to ensure your own suffering. Because the only things that are permanent in each realm is your life force energy awareness, you being aware of each quadrant, and your perception of good and evil. Like, you have the innate nature to tell what is right or wrong. So you must be a very, not only strong person to create your own axiom of reality, but you gotta be kind of crazy. You have to be batshit crazy to literally think that you can create your own axiom of reality in this world. Because everything's telling you that you can't. All of the confusion, all of the complexity, is this heaven, is this hell? Even if this is hell, you don't have to endure excess suffering while you're here. You must begin to learn the ways that your life force energy is being manipulated in a low vibrational form. You must become aware of how 1% or 0.5% of low vibrational conscious beings who are not ignorant have swayed the collective into believing what's real and what's not real. They're controlling the perception of good and evil. So they are playing with your reality. The only way to truly create a new axiom is to question the old axioms of reality, even the old axioms of reality that you've had. And so the highest level of truth you'll ever reach is the highest level of honesty that you'll reach with yourself. What do I really consider as real and unreal? What do I really consider as good and evil? And a question may be the most powerful thing you have in this reality. And every question and every birth, every emergence of anything, all emerges from the agatho-cocological manipulation of your life force energy, the use or misuse of it. The entire emergence of good and evil, the entire pattern of light and dark is all powering, these polarities are powering with mental magnetism your reality. See, even if you are not aware of the truth, you are always interacting with the truth. You must free your life force energy and learn how it is being manipulated, learn how you are manipulating it. In order to free yourself and free your mind enough to be able to create your own axiom of reality. So since excess suffering and multidimensional slavery has been placed upon us, We are literally captives of our own quasi realms. We've become agents of what is real and what is not real. I'm not going to talk about money in this video. I'm not going to talk about God, but these are the things that we have become agents of that actually cause us to suffer. Although there is soul, mind, and body, life force energy, pure life force energy awareness, mind and body, you can only create realities in two of these sub-realms. The other reality is source. The mind body are just two emergent realities or sub-realities of source. And as you can see, in each reality there are 4 quadrants or 4 ways for you to perceive something. In these 4 quadrants there are what is real and what is not real. You see, and even as I realize that that limits are illusions, that these polar opposites are illusions, that's where the true expanding of the bandwidth of my own consciousness occurs. Within these axioms. See, if you realize that these are infinite, that these limits are illusions, then you can actually expand your consciousness within each sub-reality. You see, I've always known that Jesus was a representation of egoic perception, and that you must sacrifice your egoic perception in order to access God consciousness. I'll say it again. Jesus was a representation of egoic perception that must be crucified. Are you guys noticing this axiom and what is in the middle of the axiom? This is you creating your reality. So Jesus being sacrificed, or your egoic perception being sacrificed, allows you to transcend into higher pure awareness of being. Before you were ever split into mind and body, before you ever had to transcend and make the two one again, there was just pure awareness. When you transcend into pure life force energy awareness, you destroy these 2 axioms, making you generator, operator, and destroyer. You see, to transcend actually means to destroy. So once these axioms are destroyed, by you transcending the axioms that you created, then you are able to recreate them or regenerate them. The guru came to tell you how to lift the veil that was obstructing the view of your true nature. The Buddha came to tell you how to end excess suffering. But I have come to tell you that mental magnetism and polarities power the axioms of your reality. I am here to tell you how to create, destroy, and recreate new axioms of reality. I am here to show you the endless cycles of consciousness. So you must also understand a very important thing when we talk about pure awareness. Although there is pure awareness, there are still realities. Which means that things are real, but to a certain extent. Which means things can be real in this realm and not real in this realm. Things can be real to you inside of you psychologically and not even real in the physical realm. So you must also understand simultaneous realities. That soul, mind, and body are all happening simultaneously as quasi-realms. similar realms. One is each encapsulated into another. The soul encapsulated by the mind encapsulated by the body, and your body is encapsulated by the earth and the ether, source. So you'll see it is like a waterfall of DMT. You will have to be very devoted to understand this fully. Like, it will be very difficult for you to convince another human being that they are in control of their reality, and these are the things controlling their realities. I want to give you a real quick analogy on simultaneous realities. Many people place high importance on challenging the current structures and beliefs of reality. I place my highest priority on creating a new axiom, an individual thought pattern, an individual strand within consciousness itself, a new axiom that will automatically challenge any pre-existing one that the world held or that I held. But he uses the analogy of chasing a kid with a snake. He says that you chase the kid with the fake snake. Let's say there's a parent and they show this kid this fake snake, and the kid is terrified, like really, really scared, like to that maximum. But the parent, the more conscious being, knows that the snake is fake. So that doesn't actually justify the suffering. But another point to introduce is that the suffering was no less real because the snake was fake. So it was real, but to a certain extent. This is why we get trapped in our own endless genealogy quasi-realms that we create for ourselves. And you should be able to look at these universal models of perception and pick out truth too. If you are well studied, if you are well diverse, you'll be like, dang, I see the holes in this. What I'm explaining is people touching on mystic bases and psychological bases. You're just worried about intellect. These are your own quasi realms. But in order to understand reality, you must understand what's making up the realms. Since the nature of perception is based on polarities, the price of perception is suffering. A healed egoic perception is in fact the end to all excess suffering. It is the end to what the Buddha called the second dart. He says, although I may have pain in my back, I only took one dart instead of two. Suffering arose and then disappeared again. But if I had reacted mentally, taken the pain physically, and reacted mentally, then that's two darts that I'm taking. The excess suffering. You must also understand that there's a threshold in the brain, in each reality, in the mind, that must be passed in order for you to determine what is actually real and what is actually unreal. If a certain activity or a certain thing in this world a certain thing within consciousness doesn't pass the threshold of reality, then you actually consider it as unreal. So what is the threshold? What is the veil? What is the common point of intersection? It's you. So sacrificing your egoic perception allows you to reach your higher transcendent state of being. But better than that, having a healed egoic perception will allow you to create a healthy new axiom of reality, to where your soul can connect the 35 dots of reality. If you can determine and decide what's real and unreal, and control your perception of good and evil, then you control your reality. And if you do not decide to take control of what is real and what is not real, your perception of good and evil, then someone else will take control of these axioms and give you templates and axioms of what is actually real in your own dream. To seek permanence in either of these sub-realities or quasi-realms is to ensure your suffering. You know, only greatness, I would say, can instill that type of confidence in you. Explaining to you how to create a new axiom of reality for yourself is I'm passing you the rock. You must also realize that you are indeed in the physical realm is a hell realm. It is based on low vibrational nature. And what you're deciding within these quadrants are how you are spinning your reality and creating your axioms of reality. But you must not get stuck in one quadrant, otherwise there goes access to the rest of your power. Then you'll say, I'm controlling how I perceive everything, but then when something goes wrong in the world, you'll be like, dang, where does this come from? Where do I interject? These axioms are literally the fabric of reality. So you telling me, Trey, I can actually change the fabric of reality? Yes. Like with this template and with this model, you can actually change and alter the fabric of reality. And within consciousness, infinite new axioms can be created. Infinite new axioms can be created. Why would someone want us to stop creating new axioms of reality? You could say it's the 0.5% of low vibrational conscious beings in this world who want power and control and would love to manipulate your reality for you. So since humanity has proven to be incapable of creating reality, it's being done for them. It takes leaders and strong minds to create new axioms of reality. And it takes willing minds as a collective to accept these new axioms of reality that are actually benefiting humanity instead of being destructive and trapping humanity within these realms, within these quadrants, causing multidimensional slavery. So I would like to get together with other conscious beings. Now, like one of my favorite guys right now is Benedictine the Truth. They say it in the Bible many, many times that just to be watching, just watch. Watching this information will spring to you. He said there will be a time when you'll look for me and I'll be gone. When your soul will yearn for the food that I have to give you, the knowledge I have to give you, and I'll be gone. Building my own wisdom and knowledge, and not only building my own wisdom and knowledge, but giving it back. But I know when to get out of a realm. I know when to get out of my own quasi-realm. The own loop of endless genealogy that I create within my inner individual. The own prison or trap that I set for myself. We're not talking about the consciousness cannot escape itself. We're not talking about the first prison. We're not talking about the second prison that we become agents of. We're not talking about the brick prison that is within the prison that society built that we all make real as well. We're talking about the quasi-realm that you, or vortex that you get pulled into, where you are no longer the one deciding what's real and what's not real. This is hell. And this is pure torture for human consciousness, is when consciousness does not know what is real and what is not real. When it has false perceptions and illusions of good and evil. Your egoic perception is the Lord of illusions, aka all emergence and emergent realms from life force energy source itself. So to some extent, it's all distorted, but to some extent, it's all real. And that has been the hardest thing for human beings to perceive. Is it because of memory wipe, or they have made us forget that we actually do create our own reality? They make us forget about these 4 quadrants of each reality. Mind, body. But they make us forget that we are the Lord of all illusions. And that the Lord of all illusions must be sacrificed in order to reach a state of nirvana, a state of bliss, a state of being. You must come to a point to where you'd rather have pain than emptiness. Because you will not avoid pain in this realm, in this experience. Because it's what's making everything real, the pain threshold, egoic perception. But you'll notice when you're in these quasi-realms of endless genealogy that you experience an emptiness that is more painful to the soul than anything. So you would actually prefer to create your own new axiom of reality and accept whatever pain, egoic pain comes behind it, rather than feeling empty because you have accepted an axiom or a template of reality, or a template of what is real and what is not real, a template of a highest perception of good or a highest perception of evil, like religion. See, they are creating the polarities for you. They are creating the axiom for you, and here you are in the middle, perceiving it all. Life is a dream, and the last thing that you'll want to do is find yourself in the dream complaining. I love you. Stay woke.